Our opening words this morning are by Robert Adams, one of the first American teachers of non-duality, or Advaita Vedanta. Happiness is your very nature. Happiness and the self are synonymous. Consciousness, absolute reality, pure awareness are all synonymous. There is only one. It has many names, but the one pervades all of space and time, and it is the only existence, and you are that. There is no other existence. Awaken to this truth. You are the only one that does exist, and you are consciousness. Now, our meditation for this morning, these words are from Eckhart Tolle. Use your senses fully. Be where you are. Look around. Just look, don't interpret. See the light, shapes, colors, textures. Be aware of the silent presence of each thing. Be aware of the space that allows everything to be. Listen to the sounds. Don't judge them. Listen to the silence underneath the sounds. Touch something, anything, and feel and acknowledge its being. Observe the rhythm of your breathing. Feel the air flowing in and out. Feel the life energy inside your body. Allow everything to be within and without. Allow the isness of things. Move deeply into the now. You are leaving behind the deadening world of mental abstraction, of time. You are getting out of the insane mind that is draining you of life energy, just as it is slowly poisoning and destroying the earth. You are awakening out of the dream of time into the present moment.
This morning's reading is from Nisargadatta Maharaj, a very important teacher in India in the 20th century. He says, "All you need is already within you, only you must approach yourself with reverence and love. Self-condemnation and self-distrust are grievous errors. Your constant flight from pain and search for pleasure is a sign of love you bear for yourself. All I plead with you is this: make love of yourself perfect. Deny yourself nothing. Give yourself infinity and eternity, and discover that you do not need them. You are beyond."
For this talk, I will focus on religious expressions in India. I know these the best, and with their 4,000 years of traditions, they have expressed religious ideas pretty thoroughly. And this certainly is relevant to European and American religious traditions. There is one thing that all these traditions agree on. Life has suffering. Maybe even life is suffering. Each tradition can show you how to end this suffering. Faith traditions say you suffer because you are separated from God, and you have to believe in, have faith in God in order to stop suffering. Experience-oriented traditions like Buddhism say that you suffer because your mind is full of cravings and desires, and to stop suffering, you have to quiet the mind's cravings. With both traditions, a person can have deep religious experience that transports them past the ordinary into the divine, from a limited experience into something bigger, something vast and limitless, filled with love, light, and compassion. But each form has their own problems. The problems with faith orientations is doubt. For example, fundamental Christians believe many things that I have deep doubts about, so their benefit is lost to me. The problem with experience-oriented religions is their highest expressions, like nirvana, mainly come only after many years of preparation and practice. An example of this is the Zen practitioner who has a sudden enlightenment after 20 years of practice. We knew a man like this in India. He said that it all was so easy, and he even wrote a book about it, Effortless Meditation, but it took him 10 years of intense meditation every day before he could say how easy it is. I've meditated for many years, and nirvana still seems far away. This is the background to the talk today. Carol and I will talk about another approach, one that we've taken in our own life for the last 30 years. A common name for this is non-duality. This has its root in the Hindu Advaita Vedanta. Advaita means not two, and Vedanta means final teaching. So Advaita Vedanta translates as the final teaching of not two, or non-duality. Advaita is an ancient Indian teaching based on the Vedas and Upanishads. Adi Shankara, pictured on this slide, was an Indian philosopher and theologian who consolidated the teachings of Advaita Vedanta around 800 AD. These teachings were familiar to Unitarian transcendentalists like Emerson and Thoreau, and were actually used in their writings, like Thoreau's Walden Pond and Emerson's poem Brahma. Advaita says that the cause of suffering is lack of knowledge, that you don't really know just who really you are, that your own identity and existence really is. The way to end suffering, then, is to really know yourself, to know the nature of your own existence. We are talking about experiential knowledge, not cognitive knowledge, knowing like knowing that you exist. So the third way of Advaita is the way of deep inner knowledge and the ever-present consciousness. If the key to ending all dissatisfaction lies in deep knowledge of yourself, how do we get this for ourselves? The approach to Advaita is something that is familiar to you use. It's based on asking questions, then looking deep within for answers. They show you how to find this knowledge in ways that are simple and direct. It doesn't require faith or some kind of special experience that comes after long practice. Rather, it comes from your immediate experience. They might ask, do you exist? And then ask, how do you know that you exist? Is it through your senses? Is it from the mind? Well, do you exist even when you have no sense inputs? Yes. So it's not from the senses that you know that you exist. Do you exist even when you're not thinking? Yes. Then it's not from the mind. They then point out, since it's not your senses and not your mind, it must be from something deeper. What is this? Know this. Let's do this for ourselves right now. I ask you, do you exist? Now, where within yourself do you look to find the answer? Observe closely. Is it from your senses? Is it from your mind? Or is it some kind of deeper knowledge that you just know? Non-dualists might say, if you know that you exist, then you know everything you need to study and practice non-duality. They might tell you to ask yourself, who am I? And to not accept any answer that is objective, telling you you are not an object. Who are you if you are not the body, not the senses, not the mind? This looking is more akin to feeling than thinking. Who am I? Other ways to investigate yourself are drawn from experiences that everybody has, like waking and dreaming. The waking state has a subject-object orientation, with you as the subject and everything else as an object. You experience it all as real. Dreaming has the same subject-object orientation, though both the subject and objects are dream creations, and still dreams have the same sense of reality. They might ask, where does the reality, the sense of reality, come from in your dreams? How about the waking state? Advaita says that a better way to know your own reality is through discrimination. And they say that this is separating out the real from the unreal. This is separating the unchanging from the changing. They say that our ideas of our own identity are made up of assumptions and habits that we have built up over a lifetime and never really challenged. We just know this is how it is. This is who I am. Well, is it? Advaita invites you to look within with discrimination, sorting out what changes or comes and goes from what is always there. Once you start to look, you notice that there is something that is always there. You might start to wonder about this. Well, welcome to the practice of non-duality. What is always there every time I look? Well, one thing is existence, being. Everything I hear, touch, smell exists and is known. This knowingness is another thing that is always present, this consciousness, this awareness. Without this consciousness, how could I see anything, know anything? How could I even know that I exist? Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. He missed the mark a little bit, I think. He should have said, I am conscious, therefore I am. Now, it's not that I am consciousness, but instead it is I am consciousness itself. This is the deep meaning of non-duality. Non-duality is really a matter of identity, not some kind of mental understanding. It's not a matter of realizing the truth, but rather realizing that you are the truth. This practice is sometimes called awareness of awareness. This is a regular part of my life now. For me, the more I know this something that is always, the more I am happy each day. This is my personal payoff for the investigation that is at the heart of non-duality. I feel I've not found self-realization. I still feel the ego within me and mostly think this ego is real. Sometimes, though, I see past the ego into something deeper, and I feel more inner peace all the time. That's enough for me. This is what I have found. Maybe you can too. Just notice within yourself that for everything you see, hear, smell, or touch, there is a knower. If you look for who am I, you will see that I am the knower. This often comes as an intuitive flash. This knowledge can start a new journey for you, a new view of life, who you are and what is important. I had studied Buddhism and tried to practice it for about 25 years before I was introduced to this teaching and practice. The appeal of Buddhism was that it pointed the way to a deep peace and inner clarity. Advaita shows that this is all within me, so it is more available, closer to me. In Buddhism, I strived for nirvana. In Advaita, I just become who I have always been. I find what was always there, but I just never noticed it. Buddhism has the highest goal of enlightenment, but I never knew what that meant. Now my goal is self-realization, and I know what that actually means and the kind of inner work I have yet to do. For me, this is all a part of a lifelong inner search. How does the world work, and what is my part in it? I'm still searching, but now I feel like I have better tools for this search, and I know better where to search within myself.
This reading is by Joseph P. Kauffman, author, meditation teacher, and the founder of Conscious Collective. We are like waves in the ocean, each with a unique character and quality on the surface. But deep down, we are eternally connected to one another and to the ocean as a whole. If you practice looking beyond the surface of appearances, you will begin to see the true being that lies within each form. You will see your consciousness looking through the eyes of another, and it is when you see yourself in another that you cannot help but develop compassion for them, because in truth, there is no them. There is only you, experiencing yourself from an inconceivable amount of perspectives.
As many of you know, Richard introduced me to Advaita when we met 30 years ago. But I'd been discovering the ideas of non-duality for much of my life as a result of my ongoing curiosity about this thing called God. Richard has just discussed some of the ideas of non-duality. I want to add to this discussion using my own words to describe the same concepts, which ultimately, they say, cannot be talked about with words because words can only point to a truth that is beyond the mind. Advaita Vedanta, the final highest teaching of not two. But what the heck does that even mean? Not two of what? Let's go back to today's opening words by American teacher Robert Adams. There is only one. It has many names, but the one pervades all of space and time. And it is the only existence, and you are that. There is no other existence. To me, he's talking about an idea of God that I can get behind. This idea of God, consciousness pervading all of space and time, makes more sense to me than the big man in the sky idea. In Advaita Vedanta, it's called being consciousness bliss, or using other words, existence, awareness, and peace. It's also called the absolute. It is a God that's not separate from me. God and I are one, not two separate existences. Now, Richard this morning posed the question, do you exist? And you answered yes. But what actually is existence? Try to track down your own sense of existence. You have to go deep within yourself, bypassing your mind. The existence is always there if you look, always the same. Non-dualists have a concept that can be especially difficult. That is the definition of reality. They say that what is real is only that which never changes. They say that everything that changes is unreal. So here's what that means. Our bodies change, our thoughts and emotions change. The world constantly changes. So, according to Advaita, our physical presence in the world is not real. It's not any more real than last night's dream. Wow, that's a doozy, right? Only that which never changes is real. That feeling of your existence is always the same. It never changes. They say that you must discover for yourself what is real. The act of remembering to look for what changes and what doesn't is called discrimination. And what's the deal with attachments, things the Buddhists talk about? We, as separate beings, forgetting that everything changes, cling on to various people and things because we think they're going to give us happiness. We're attached to them. And then they change, and when we find that they don't bring us any more happiness, we suffer. The sages teach us to ask ourselves the question, who am I? Who am I really? Am I my body? Am I inside my body? What is this entity that I call me? Think about it for a second. You say my body or my mind, but who are you referring to when you say my? The search for the true answer to this question is the practice of non-duality. Those who found the answer are said to have been enlightened or self-realized. They are in the state of nirvana. They have realized that their ego, their feeling of separation, is just an illusion. You leave behind your ego and your body and achieve immeasurable eternal peace. In other words, you discover what Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. It's been within you the entire time. So what do you have to do to get to heaven? If it's within you, how do you get there? Well, that's the tricky part. First, I think you have to believe that non-duality is a real possibility, worth exploring. I'm deeply grateful that throughout my life I've been exposed to this philosophy, and that I met a real master teacher, a guru, if you will, to further me on this path. Secondly, meditation helps to quiet the mind to get past it, to the feeling of existence. I recently came across this quote from contemporary Indian teacher Ramesh Balsekar. Contact with the awareness of the absolute can come about only when the mind is fasting, when the process of conceptualization has utterly ceased. When the mind feasts, reality disappears. When the mind fasts, reality enters. And you have to keep asking, who am I really? As Richard said, being committed to this path of self-awareness takes work. The first step is to be exposed to these ideas. And I want to thank you all for allowing us to share this with you today. Our closing words today are by Dogen, a 13th century Japanese teacher, founder of the Soto Zen school. He says, "Do not follow the ideas of others, but learn to listen to the voice within yourself. Your body and mind will become clear, and you will realize the unity of all things."